Hello, everybody, and welcome here up at BSN Network. Today is Friday, April 15th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. Coming off another big night last night in the world of sports. The New York Yankees got the win over the Toronto Blue Jays 3-0. So the Yankees split the series against the Blue Jays, which is solid. I like it. It's good. It's a good series. You tied the series. You lost the first game. They lost, they won the second game, lost the third game, were able to come back in the fourth game, which was yesterday, and got the series, tied it up. So it's a tied series 2-2. Yankees will now head to Baltimore starting tonight to start a little bit of a road trip, 6-game road trip starting tonight in Baltimore and ending in Detroit. Start of 3 today, Friday into Sunday, so a little bit of a weekend series starting tonight. It was a good win. Severino pitched really good. Yankees bottom of the lineup came alive. Isaiah Connor-Falefa went 3 for 3. You were able to see some production out of Jose Trevino. Judge, Stanton both were able to get on the boards with hits. DJ was able to get on the boards with hits. Get on the board with a hit. So, a lot to like yesterday from the Yankees win. It was a 3-0 game. Shut down a Blue Jays lineup that, the night before you had Vlad Guerrero Jr. going 4 for 4 with 3 home runs and a triple or a double. They were able to shut him down for the most part. Severino looks good. Looks really, really good early on and had a little bit of a shaky spring. He was a little shaky, wasn't hitting all of his pitches, was getting hit pretty hard, but he has looked really, really, really good in his first 2 starts of the season, and you like to see that. And yesterday, he looked very, very good. And yesterday, he looked like the Luis Severino we saw in 2019 prior to all of this injury chaos and COVID season and all that stuff that has went on that, caused him to miss a lot of time over the past 2 years. So it looks good, and tonight Yankees are back in action against the Orioles, so hopefully they can get the series win there. The expectation is you sweep them. The Orioles are a lousy team. They stink. They're very bad. They're a lousy 1-5. They're not a good team. They're a rebuilding team. I don't know how much longer they're going to rebuild. It seems like every year they stink and they make no progress. So they're 1-5, and a Yankee team that dominates the Orioles left and right, dominates them at Camden Yards, hits a ton of home runs at Camden Yards. So the expectation is this weekend you got to come out and sweep them. And that's the expectation. That's the goal. That's what should happen. It should not be, you win 2 out of 3, okay, but it should not be a rubber there, you should sweep them. That's really what you should do. So Yankees open up tonight against the Orioles. Monty is on the mound tonight, hoping for a good performance from him. Obviously got hit in the leg in his first start, hoping that he bounces back well and has a good performance tonight. Mets, big day today. Actually just got done watching the Seaver statue unveiling, which is why I'm doing a pod afterwards. I wanted to see it, saw the presentation. It was a nice job by the Mets, did a very good job. And the statue is really good. Something that's been a long time coming. Something that has been a long time, and he was a franchise cornerstone. He did so much for the organization. Won a World Series, was just so dominant, and is one of the best pitchers of all time. A guy that, Met fans, whether you watched him or didn't watch him, everyone knows about Tom Seaver, and a really nice tribute for the Mets and a really nice statue that the Mets did today. And for those of you who are in Queens and, at Citi Field there, in Queens, should be a good day with a 1 o'clock start against the Diamondbacks. So Mets today, home opener against the Diamondbacks, coming off a day off. Yankees, like I said, on the road in Baltimore against the Orioles to open up a 3-game weekend series set. What else is going on? Rangers, day off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow against the Red Wings, who, by the way, just got done shutting out. They shut out the Carolina Hurricanes. So, not saying that's going to happen, but you got to like what you're seeing. You got to like what if you're a Red Wings fan, you got to like what you saw. They shut out the Hurricanes. So, Rangers are getting a Hurricanes. The Rangers are getting a Red Wings team that's feisty, rebuilding, end of the year for them. They're not making the postseason, so Rangers got to make sure they come to play. Islanders tonight, Yankees tonight, Mets in the afternoon, and obviously, like I said, Nets open up their series on Sunday. So, a lot to get today. We're going to get to 2 topics today, and let's get into those 2 topics. So, we're going to start off today's podcast with the Jets and their draft rumors. So, I wanted to give you a little bit of my projections for the New York Jets and their draft rumors and the possibilities of where they could go, what they're going to do, all the different scenarios, all the different possibilities. I'm going to take a deeper dive into this, as we get closer. And, the next couple weeks is going to be a whole lot of draft talk. It's going to be a whole lot of, just me dissecting guys. I'll get into individual players. I'm going to do the best I can to give you as much Jets draft coverage as I can. So today we're going to start off with the rumors, possibilities, kind of give you an up-to-date stuff. And I have a list of players that the Jets are looking at. I have a list of players that are on the Jets draft board. Obviously, through all of this, there's all, there's the different possibilities, the million of different things that could happen. Do the Jets go 2 defensive players, 2 offensive players? Do they go defense, offense? Do they go defense, then trade back? Do they trade their 10th pick and, make a blockbuster deal for Deebo Samuel? There's so much that can happen. Do they go best player available at number 10? Do they help Wilson? Do they get edge? There's so many different possibilities. So I'm going to give you the list of players, and kind of give you a rough estimate of what I would like to see out of the New York Jets come draft night here in the next couple weeks. So we're going to start off with that. Then we're going to get to the Nets Celtics preview. I'm going to give you a preview as the series as a whole. I'm going to kind of talk about it, give you a preview, kind of just go through it, give you my preview for Sunday, and kind of just what the Nets need to do in the series in order to beat the Celtics. I think there's 2 big things that the Nets need to do in order to beat the Celtics and move on to the next round in the NBA playoffs. I'll give you those and the preview and much more. Like I said, 3:30 Eastern, ABC on Sunday is Game 1 of the series in Boston at TD Garden. And it will wrap up things today on this Friday with the New York sports update. Like I mentioned, we got, what do we got going? Like I said, Yankees tonight in Baltimore against the Orioles, first game of 3-game set. Mets home opener today, 1 Eastern, first game of 3-game set against the Diamondbacks in Queens at Citi Field. Islanders on the road in Montreal against the Canadiens. Rangers day off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow. This is their second day off. They'll be back in action tomorrow with a matinee start at MSG against the Red Wings. And like I said, on Sunday, we'll see the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics Game 1. So, a lot to get to. With all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so we're just a couple days, we're getting closer and closer and closer to the NFL draft. We're getting closer and closer and closer to, April 28th, which is the start day. April 29th will be day 2. It goes into Saturday, April 30th, so it's a 3-day thing. We all know how the draft works. So, as we stand here today, I gotta check, it's April 15th, forgot the date already. So we're 13 days away. We are less than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, and, all the chaos is going on as we get closer and closer and closer. The day of the draft is the craziness, is because it's like, that's when everything's being put together. That's when you're waiting all day, until 8 Eastern. You're waiting all day to see what happens. You're waiting all day to see if there's any, trades come draft day. There's always so much, chaos on the day of the draft. And I will get to the Giants. I'm going to talk about the Giants, but, I'm a Jet fan, so I'm going to talk about the Jets first. I'm going to talk about my favorite team, talk about my beloved New York Jets. So, there's so many different scenarios that we could all run through, right? And there's so many different possibilities. And, now that, free agency obviously has been over for a little while, draft, the draft coverage has been happening for a really long time, and there's been draft, stuff here and there. And, the fact that we are 13 days away from the NFL draft creates, a bunch of, storm of the media, saying different things about different guys, different players. And here's my thing with the Jets, right? I thought the Jets in free agency, I really felt like went out and filled a lot of needs, filled a lot of things the Jets needed to do, filled a lot of needs, brought in tight ends, re-signed Berrios. We did what we needed to do. We went out and signed, an offensive lineman. We went out and signed, and we did a lot of great stuff. And I thought that was a real positive from the New York Jets free agency. And there was obviously a lot of positives from it, like just a couple players, like I said, you went out and, re-signed Berrios, you brought him back, you did what you needed to do. You went out and got Wilson some protection, bringing in Lincoln Tomlinson, Pro Bowl offense lineman from the Niners. You brought in guys like Jordan Whitehead, Jacob Martin as, depth piece. You brought in Conklin and Uzama to solidify your tight end position. You add your corners. You add some corners to already who you have, Eccles and Bryce Hall, the two young guys that have a bright future. You add DJ Reed to the mix there in the secondary. So there was a lot to like from the Jets in the draft, in free agency, and there was a lot to like in terms of where they went, what they did, and they spent money wisely, and that's something that Douglas did. Did he go out and break the bank for a guy? No, he didn't. But did he go out, bring in the right pieces, bring in pieces that the Jets were in need? Yes. I mean, the Jets needed offensive line. He got it. Jets needed a tight end. He got it. A lot of people wanted Berrios back. We feel like he's a need. He brought him back on a very team-friendly deal that works out well for the Jets in the future. We feel we need a little bit more secondary and defensive depth. Well, he did that bringing in Jordan Whitehead. He did that bringing in DJ Reed. And you talk about having, edge depth, and you talk about bringing in pieces to solidified spots. They brought in Jacob Martin, who's a depth edge piece that could be used, in different packages, and that could be used, if injuries tend to happen, which the Jets have faced a lot of those recently, specifically with Carl Lawson at that edge spot, obviously tearing his Achilles last training camp, right couple weeks before the season starts, tearing his Achilles really hurt the team. He should be back this season. You got to hope he has a good year coming off the torn Achilles. So the Jets did a lot of good things. But now, with the draft right around the corner, now there's a whole lot of different possibilities. And, where do the Jets go? Do you go ahead and go, do you go defense? Do you go continue to help out Wilson? Do you, draft defense and trade back in number 10? Do you go offensive line and, receiver? Do you double up on offense? Do you double up on defense? Do you split it? What do? Do you trade back number 10, maybe draft defense at number 4, and you trade back number 10, gather more picks, and see what happens after you trade back? So there's so many different scenarios, and personally, what I would like the Jets to do, right, I think it's fair to say that even though the Jets went out and got, they built the offensive line a little bit more, bringing in Lincoln Tomlinson, you obviously have Uzama and Conklin now at tight end. You brought back Berrios. So you did a good job building around Wilson. You add that to a core that's already, if healthy, Corey Davis can be a solid asset. We saw what Elijah Moore could do, showed flashes of how good he can be last year in his rookie season. Michael Carter as well showed so much promise last year as well. Although the Jets have already done a good job building around Wilson, I would love for the Jets to bring in another receiver, bring in another asset, bring in another piece, because I've always said this. And I will continue to say this, and I'll continue to say this until the season starts. Whenever the Jets have the opportunity, whenever any organization has the opportunity to build around your quarterback, build around your franchise guys, build around the cornerstone of the franchise, you need to do it. It's never a bad thing to continue to build around your quarterback. Because as long as you build around your quarterback and do your job, then that falls on Zach Wilson to use that talent around him to his advantage and do his job every Sunday and add his win football games and play at a high level. And I always will say this, the last thing I want is for us to play the what-if game. If the Jets pass up on a wide receiver, that wide receiver turns into something great, and the Jets, we play the what-if game. Oh, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if we traded for this? What if we did this? All that. Because that's the last thing we want is, Wilson not to do well, Jets then miss out on a receiver, and Wilson's receiving core maybe is not as good as we want. So I would still love the Jets to bring in a receiver. And like I said, Jets draft picks are at number 4 and at number 10. I could also see the possibility of drafting the best player available. Because if you go out and draft the BPA, you're bringing in the best guy available. You're bringing in a guy that obviously out of all the players remaining has the most talent. And you bring that guy in, and no matter if it's a position of serious need, you can try to find a way to fit him onto your roster because he's obviously the best player available. Whether that's a number 10 or number 4. Here's what I would personally do, and I'm going to give you a list of guys to look at. I like Kayvon Thibodeau a lot. I do. I know there's a lot of people out there saying, he's not great in a locker room. Look, all those things are going to come out. People are going to say that. They're going to try to destroy draft stock. People are always going to say that. People are also going to hype guys up that really aren't that good. It happens every single year. So that's why you got to take some of these reports sometimes with a grain of salt, because a lot of times these mock drafts say, oh, this guy's not that good, and he turns out to be a stud. So I like Kayvon Thibodeau a lot. I like Garrett Wilson a lot. Chris Olave is somebody to look out for. Evan Neal, Kyle Hamilton, Sauce Gardner, Drake London, Jamison Williams, Jermaine Johnson's kind of an underrated edge guy. Maybe if you don't want to go Thibodeau at number 4, you can look at Johnson more number 10 if you want to go Sauce at 4, somebody that could be around there. Even your late round picks could be a McBride, could be a Linderbaum, could be a Jahan Dotson. Jets could also trade back, like I said, at number 10, gather more picks, draft maybe Garrett. Let's say they were looking for Garrett Wilson. Let's say they trade back to 15. Garrett Wilson's still there at 15. Maybe they still get Garrett Wilson, and they gather more picks later on and into next year's draft. So the Jets could play some of those ways. Now, like I said, I love the idea of building on defense. I love the idea of building on offense. So personally, what I would do if I'm the New York Jets, depending on how it all plays out, I go defense at number 4 and either best player available at 10 or wide receiver at 10. Because I think, now there's still some very solid wide receivers later round. So you could go either way with it. And this is what I'm saying. I would not jump for a wide receiver at 10. If you feel like he's going to be there later round, or you feel like it's not the best pick at number 10, then you trade out of it and maybe you get a Jahan Dotson maybe in the second round or third round, somebody who could just be just as good as maybe one of those first round receivers. I still feel like the Jets, within the first 2 rounds or 3, Jets need to come away with a receiver because you need to continue to build around Wilson. And as much as I think Corey Davis has promise, Elijah Moore is, I think, going to be great. And as much as Corey Davis is a nice piece to bring back, I would love to have another piece. Olave, Dotson, Wilson, Jamison Williams. The big concern with him is the torn ACL, which we've gotten to the point in sports where players recover from torn ACLs, but that young in your career, where you're supposed to be explosive, you're a deep ball threat, you're quick, you're good route running. If your knee isn't right for the rest of your career, that's a risky pick to make, especially when you have a torn ACL on a player that uses, his legs and uses his mobility, uses the ability to move fast to his advantage. So you got to keep an eye out for that with Jamison Williams. It's a little bit of a high risk move, but your high reward is you get a guy that's fast, you get a guy that's quick, you get a guy that can catch, you get a guy that's good on one-on-one, you get a guy that's a true deep ball threat that can win one-on-one, that's strong. Red zone threat. He could do a whole lot. He's reliable, similar to Jahan Dotson. But do you want to take that risk at 10, or do you trade out of 10, or do you not take a receiver at 10 and maybe wait to get a guy like a Jahan Dotson later round? Maybe not as talented, but safer pick with maybe a little bit of a higher upside. Safer pick. Still can be very talented, but he's a safer pick given that he doesn't have much of an injury history. So you got to look out there. So that's the big thing. Now, like I said, at number 4, what I would personally do, I go number 4. I would love to bring in Sauce Gardner. I don't think Sauce Gardner is going to be there at number 10. I personally don't. From what I'm hearing from draft people, from what I'm hearing from, sources like, Rapport, all those guys, I don't think Sauce Gardner is going to be at number 10. So if you want Sauce Gardner or Kayvon Thibodeau, you're going to have to get them at number 4. They're not going to be there at number 10. Kyle Hamilton's one of those 50-50 guys. If you want Kyle Hamilton, I know a lot of people are high on him. I think he's a very good player from what I've seen in film. From looking at him, he's a very nice asset. The risk with him is you take him at 4, it could be a little bit of a jump because he could be a guy that's available at 10. Now, if you want Hamilton and you take defense at 4, if you want Hamilton at 10, you're going to have to take him at 10 because I don't think Hamilton's falling out of the top 12. So you're probably going to have to take him at 10. Guys that are going to be available at 4 is probably going to be Thibodeau. And Sauce Gardner, could be Thibodeau and Sauce Gardner. Now, Thibodeau could be gone. Thibodeau could be out of there at number 2. I think Thibodeau, it's very up in the air. I think we're going to find out, I know this might sound dumb, but we're going to find out what happens with Kayvon Thibodeau come draft night. It's not something that you're going to have a good idea of where he's going to get drafted. A lot of times you have a good idea of where guys are going to get drafted, second round, first round. I think we all know Aiden Hutchinson, although some people say, Jaguars might, no. Aiden Hutchinson's going to be the first overall pick. I don't care what people say. He's going to be the first overall pick. Jaguars would be dumb to pass up on a guy. He's an excellent pass rusher, something that the Jaguars need a guy to build around. So I understand where they're coming from with that. But Aiden Hutchinson's probably going number 1. The rest of it's weird. And there's just still a good chance. I mean, who knows? And maybe you get a Kenny Pickett or a Malik Willis or somebody like that storms the top 10, blows it up, there's a big trade, and now all of a sudden, some of these other guys are available later on because there's a big trade in the top 10, quarterbacks all of a sudden take over, and defense and offensive players outside of quarterbacks are not that high of are not that, high of picks. So you all have to take that into account. I think with it being not as strong as a quarterback class, you're going to see a lot of guys, like Sauce Gardner, Thibodeau, taken high because those are your most talented players. Your quarterbacks are kind of now, kind of in the backdrop this year of the draft, where there's a whole lot of questions around them. Number 4, I would love to bring in Sauce Gardner. I mean, my biggest thing with Sauce Gardner is this. People could say is whatever they want. In his entire college career, he never allowed a touchdown. So that's a big thing with me. In his entire career in college, I don't care who they're playing. I don't care what the team they're playing. In his entire career in college, he never allowed a touchdown. That to me, right there, top 5 pick worthy. That stat in itself. The interceptions, the pass defended, one-on-one, in zone, all that different stuff. That stuff, leave that. He never allowed a touchdown. And in the Alabama game, he never allowed a touchdown. So you want to talk about going up against a big-time school? He lived up to it in Alabama. So the fact that he never allowed a touchdown is huge. Thibodeau, I like a lot. I don't believe in all this nonsense around Kayvon Thibodeau, saying he doesn't have the drive, he doesn't have the love for the game. I don't believe in that. Every year there's a couple players that everybody says that about, and it's just to try to bring those guys down. It's just to try to create havoc. I don't believe in that. I think Thibodeau could be a solid culture guy. I think he could be a guy that comes in, we edges a need, him and Carl Lawson. I mean, if you were to bring in him, Carl Lawson can mentor him, bring him under his wing. You bring him into an excellent situation. He does kind of what the Jets like to do on defense. He's good getting to the quarterback. He gets to the quarterback quick. He's explosive. A lot of what the Jets need and a lot of what the Jets do, Carl Lawson gets to the quarterback quick. Thibodeau can get to the quarterback quick too. That's what the Jets need. Their defense is built around getting to the quarterback, forcing pressure, putting less stress on your secondary. But you got to look at it. If Thibodeau and Sauce Gardner are both there at 4, you got to weigh it. Do you go with Thibodeau to, completely strengthen up your edge, have Lawson and Thibodeau on one side? Or do you go Sauce Gardner, who has the potential to be a true number 1 lockdown corner, which the Jets haven't had since Darrelle Revis? So you got to weigh your options too there. So there's so many different possibilities, so many different, interesting things. Now, if Thibodeau and Sauce Gardner are there at 4, to be honest with you, wouldn't mind either. I would probably be on the side of just, it's so tough. It's so tough to say who you would go with. If Thibodeau and Sauce Gardner are both there at number 4, you would have to, it would have to come down to, who do you want? That's kind of your, as a fan, who do you want? I would love both. If you're leaning the side, Thibodeau, you can make the argument, well, you would have 2 dominant edge rushers in Carl Lawson and Thibodeau. If you're leaning Sauce Gardner, you could say we haven't had a number 1 corner we haven't had a legit number 1 lockdown corner since Darrelle Revis, which has been a while. So, if you want to weigh the options. You could also weigh the options and say, you know what, they're both going to help out our defense, and we're going to roll with it. Now, if you do decide to, now Thibodeau is an edge. There's a lot more edge depth in this draft than there is cornerback depth. Sauce Gardner is the main headliner at cornerback. So if you feel, if you feel okay with passing up on Thibodeau, going Sauce Gardner, and it may be taking Carla Fitz or Jermaine Johnson a little later on, you can do that too. All different possibilities. There's so many different chances. So if you're okay with settling more on edge and going all out for number 1 corner, that's you. And then after 4, it's really however the next picks roll out, because then you're at 10. And let's say Drake London's there. Another guy that fits the scheme would be good for Wilson. If he's there, Garrett Wilson, there's a possibility to have 4 or 5 really good wide receivers available at 10. And you're going to have to make that decision. Do we trade back? Do we draft one here? Is it going to be a reach? I mean, you're going to have to make that decision. I mean, Jamison Williams, a lot of people think is the most talented receiver in the draft, but he's coming off a torn ACL. So that drops his stock a little bit. So, I personally think it's best for the Jets to go defense, offense. And then later on in the rounds, you roll with whatever's there. Because you definitely need some defense help. And there's a lot of talent on the defense in this draft. There's also some offense help. And a lot of people have brought up the possibility of, Ike Manakwe or Ikunwe, however you pronounce his name, from North Carolina State. He's a really solid asset on offensive line. But are you going to take him over Kayvon Thibodeau and Sauce Gardner? And then what are you going to do at 10? Settle on edge like a Carla Fitz or somebody like that? That's a risky move. Now, I get where people are coming from, solidify the offensive line, but, second round, could be also other solid offensive linemen there too. Evan Neal is also a possibility. So, I feel like if you want to really get a game changer defensively, you're going to have to go defense number 4. Offense, there's a lot more depth in this draft when it comes to receivers and skill positions like that. If you want to get a solid, if you want to go all out on defense, you're going to have to go defense number 4. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are all out and building around Wilson. And I don't disagree with that, but you're going to have to get defense from somewhere. And do you really trust the defense that's in the second round? That's up to you. So, a lot of possibilities, a lot of different things. Like I said, these are just some names. Thibodeau, Ikunwe, Garrett Wilson, Olave, Evan Neal, Kyle Hamilton, Sauce Gardner, Drake London, Jamison Williams, Jermaine Johnson. And I had 3 guys that could be later round. If the Jets are still looking to build at tight end, you could look at McBride. Jahan Dotson is another guy. If the Jets maybe want to double up on defense or go offensive line and defense or whatever, Jahan Dotson is a very good player too. He's reliable. I mean, he had consecutive catch streak. I think that's insane. So a guy that, and one thing that you did with Jahan Dotson too is he was playing with a terrible quarterback situation, Sean Clifford and stuff in Penn State. And Tyler Linderbaum too could be an option if you want to go offensive lineman later rounds. Guy that was supposed to be top 5, now he's fallen into the second round from Iowa. Look, like I said, Jets could also trade the 10th pick and acquire more picks. So there's so many different possibilities. But one thing you have to take into account, too, is if you draft a wide receiver, let's say top 10, and we see all the wide receivers nowadays getting all this big money. I know it's 5 years from now. But let's say you draft Garrett Wilson at number 10. His 5th-year option, the money you're going to have to pay him is going to be so much larger if you draft him at top 10, which is why you got to weigh your options. Let's say you draft him at top 10. His 5th-year option is going to be so much larger. His future money that he's going to want is going to be so much bigger than if you go draft Jahan Dotson. And is it that far off the skill between them two? That's your thing. So that's where you have to come in and play and say, do we go all out on a guy in top 10 or do we wait, get a guy for a lot cheaper in the second round that could do very similar, if better, if he continues to progress and get better. So those are all options you got to weigh. I like Garrett Wilson a lot. I think Garrett Wilson's probably the best receiver in the draft. Personally, him or Drake London, very good. Chris Olave is very good. I actually saw Olave in person. Was at a Rutgers-Ohio State game this season. Very good guy. A lot of explosive. Jamison Williams, like I said, it's not that I'm not high on him, but the torn ACL does affect a little bit. Because when you talk about a guy that's fast, quick, does a lot, makes a lot of cuts and does all that stuff, that's definitely a little concerning. But the talent's there, no doubt, if he can stay healthy. So, anyway, that's some of the Jets draft possibilities. So much. Right now, if it was up to me, I'd go offense. I'd go defense, offense. I have no issue with trading back to 10th pick, but if you're going to trade back the 10th pick, you're going to have to, you got to trust that the guy that maybe you saw at 10 would still be there. Because if that's not the case, then you really find yourself in an interesting situation. So trading back sometimes is always good, but it can also be a little risky at times. If you think a guy's going to be available later on, but if he's not, then you got to kind of go to plan C at that point. So a lot of different possibilities, a lot of different things as we creep closer and closer, 13 days away. And I'll get to the Giants and stuff as well. And then, my mock draft will be coming out very, very, very soon. So that's what I got for the Jets draft possibilities. Comment down below, what would you do at number 4 and 10? Do you go defense, offense, defense? Do you double up on offense, double up on defense? Do you trade back 10? What do you do? Or do you not care and you just want talent? and you want the Jets to win again? Or, like I said, do you not care who's at, do you go defense number 4 and then best player available at number 10? Do you go offense at number 4, best player available at number 10? What do you want to do? Personally, I would love to split it up, go defense, offense, but that's just me. I wouldn't have no issue with trading back as long as you can get still solid assets if you trade back. Comment down below what you would want the Jets to do as we're 13 days away from the start of the 2022 NFL Draft. Coming up next, we're going to get to the Nets and Celtics preview. Game 1 is Sunday at TD Garden in Boston. We're going to get to the preview, talk about what the Nets need to do. I believe there's 2 big keys for the Brooklyn Nets if they want to come away with this series. I'll get to that and much more coming up next. Alright, so welcome you back here up at the podcast here today, Friday, April 15th. The Yankees today, 12:13 Eastern right now. So we're just about an hour away from New York Mets and Arizona Diamondbacks. Mets opening day at Citi Field in Queens. For those of you who are there, beautiful, great day for it. Great day for it. Like I said, watch the Seaver monument statue unveiling, which was really cool. Really cool. Something that's long overdue. Something that, for what he did to the organization, what he did for the organization, and really just what he did in baseball in general, of how dominant he was, well deserved, and a nice thing for the Mets to do. Nice tribute for Tom Seaver. Mets legend for the organization. Anyway, so that's what we got for the Mets. Now we're going to go to the Nets, so take out the M, put it with an N. And we got our Brooklyn Nets this weekend opening up the first round series against the Boston Celtics. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I was like, I was listening to the radio, and I heard the update on WFA, and it was like, tonight you got the 2 other playing games. And I'm like, I'm so glad that the Nets won on Tuesday. They got the win. They took care of business against the Cavs. They did it in night good fashion, 115-108. It was a wire-to-wire victory. It got close at times, but the Nets led from the start and led, all the way through. And I'm so glad that the Nets didn't have to play today, because if they had to play today, I would be, I'd be a mess, because it would come down to one game, and I would just be a mess. So I'm so glad the Nets took care of business on Tuesday. It's been a nice couple days of, stress. I mean, other than watching the Yankees, which can cause you stress at times, but not as much because it's 162 games. So these games, although they mean stuff, they don't mean as much as, a playoff game will in any sport, and that's how it is in regular season. But it's been a nice couple days of stress-free basketball for the Nets, and today will be stress-free. Tomorrow will be stress-free. Come Sunday, that's when Game 1, and I feel like Game 1's always the biggest, because you win Game 1, you feel great. If you lose Game 1, you just like as a fan, if you win Game 1, you feel great, and you're like, all right, this is great. And if you lose Game 1 as a fan, you want Game 2 to happen right away, because you just want redemption. You don't, you just want it to happen. You want Game 2 to be happen already. So, like I said, Game 1 is Sunday, 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Boston at the moment. Now, this line very well could change. Boston at the moment opens as 4-point favorites against the Brooklyn Nets in Game 1. Now, I believe the Nets are favorites for the series. Don't quote me on that. I believe that's the case. To be honest with you, I haven't looked at all the odds. I looked at Game 1's odds a couple times. But I believe the Nets, for the series, I think the Nets are the favorites. And a lot of people actually believe that the Nets are going to win the series. And there's still a lot of people out there that believe the Nets are going to win the NBA Finals. Now, I would love it to happen. Am I that optimistic about it? I'm not. I will tell you that. Do I think the Nets have a chance? Definitely, they do. If they live up to their ability, if they play the way they need to play, if they do the things that I'm going to tell you what they need to do, they can definitely win. Now, there's also the aspect of, they don't have home court advantage. It's a Boston team that's red hot. It's a Celtics team that's done so well this season. It's like, definitely the odds are at times stacked slightly against the Nets. Nets lost to Celtics earlier this year. Celtics has kind of had the Nets number this season. It's kind of been a tough year. For last year, the Nets dominated the Celtics. They won, in 5 games last year. It's kind of like in a way, the Nets got to find a way to bounce back here and get a series, bounce back here and beat the Celtics this year as well. It would be nice to get back to back. So, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm optimistic to the point of, if the Nets do what they need to do, Nets are capable. But if we play, where we struggle, where we turn the ball over, where we're sloppy, that's when things could really happen, and that's when issues can take place. So that's my thing. If the Nets need to play clean basketball, they need to come out, they need to play their game, they need to block out the outside noise. I think for the Nets, the biggest thing, and as a fan, is I've kind of blocked out all the projections. I've kind of blocked out all the odds. It's gotten to the point of, this team has been very streaky this year. They've done some good things. They've done some bad things. It's kind of a wait and see, and it's hopefully things go our way, and hopefully we win. That's kind of the mindset I have as a Net fan. That's kind of the mindset you kind of need to have. But I believe the Nets need to do two things in this series if they want to win. Because, and a lot of people are going to talk about, this and that, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and that's obviously big. But I have no issue. I don't think Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to struggle. I think they're going to do their thing. The pieces around Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, well, those are the streaky pieces. Those are the pieces that need to step up. Those are the pieces that need to have times where they take over. While Kyrie and while Kevin Durant's on the bench, you need guys to step up. While Kyrie's on the bench, you need your other guards, Dragic, Bruce Brown, Seth Curry, guys like that. They need to step up. Seth Curry, I didn't say Steph, by the way. Seth Curry, obviously, you need those guys to step up. You need to shoot big from three. Patty Mills needs to be good from three. Patty Mills can't be going 1 for 7 from three, and if he's struggling from three, he's got to stop shooting it, because you can't go up and down the court empty-handed, because this is a Celtics team that plays fast, they play quick. If the crowd starts to get into it, they're going to build up energy, it's going to get ugly quick. So the Nets need to play smart basketball, and they need to play fundamentally sound basketball. You can't go out, turn the ball over, because maybe you could get away with turning the ball over against the Cavaliers and the Pacers and teams like that. If you want to beat the Celtics, if you want to beat Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and company, you can't turn the ball over, especially on the road where the crowd's against you. They're going to feed off the energy of the crowd. You need to play smart basketball. But my two big keys are, is number one, you got to find a way to contain Jason Tatum. Because the last time the Nets played Jason Tatum, what did he have? 51 points? Nets ended up losing that game. If Jason Tatum doesn't score 51, or if the Nets even try to guard Jason Tatum in that game, Nets run away with the game, that's a victory for the Brooklyn Nets. But Jason Tatum was getting open looks. They weren't guarding the perimeter. Tatum was getting, mid-range. He was driving to the net. He was getting to the free throw line. He was doing everything. The Nets were just letting Jason Tatum shoot. They were letting Jason Tatum getting good looks. You can't do that if you're the Brooklyn Nets. You need to defend Jason Tatum. You need to get out on the perimeter. Cause him to make decisions. Cause him to pass the ball. Jaylen Brown's a great player. Is he Jason Tatum? No. Is he elite from three? No, he's a very good player. But when you talk about their number one guy, it's Tatum. You need to find a way to slow him down. He can't be putting up 51 points. He can't be shooting open threes left and right. You need to guard him on the perimeter. You need to get out on the perimeter, and guard him. When he's driving to the net, get a body in front of him. Take a charge. You need to be physical with him. Play physical. Try to go for the ball. Try to get steals. Force Tatum and Celtics into mistakes. Because last time the Nets played him and throughout the year, Celtics were getting open shots left and right. Celtics were getting, chances here and there. And the Nets' perimeter defense wasn't good. Nobody was getting out on the perimeter. You had all guys standing in the paint, and the perimeter was wide open for 3-4 guys to get open looks. That can't happen. And whether or not Robert Williams plays, that's another story. And if he does, that's another guy you got to look out for. And I actually trust Andre Drummond. He's played very well against the Cavs, played very well against the Pacers, has played very well to end out the year, and he's on a high note going into this series. There's a lot to like, and I've seen a lot of positives from Andre Drummond. From that standpoint, I really like what I've seen. And Andre Drummond, in his time here this season with the Nets, he's averaging 10.3 boards a game, 11.8 points. He's putting up a double-double for the Nets this season in only 22 minutes. And when he's out there, if Robert Williams does play, I do believe that Drummond's up to the challenge. Now, the big thing is Robert Williams. If Robert Williams is healthy for the Celtics, it's going to make things a whole lot harder. And that's going to result in Tatum getting more open looks because they're going to have to focus more on Robert Williams, who's a threat in the paint. But I do trust Drummond to that point. Biggest thing is you got to slow down Tatum. Because the amount of times I've watched Jason Tatum take over games, get open looks from three, people leaving him open from the perimeter, him getting open shots, specifically that net game. I remember the game. It was the day game in Boston. And Tatum was getting open looks left and right. And I'm thinking to myself, if the Nets meet this team in the postseason, you cannot let Jason Tatum get open looks from all over the place. Because if Jason Tatum scores 51, Celtics are winning. I don't care what the rest of the roster does, Celtics are going to win. Because they're going to feed off that energy, crowd's going to get into it, Nets are going to force them into mistakes. There's going to be problems. So you need to guard Jason Tatum. You need to defend Jason Tatum. And my second key is you have to play clean basketball all the way through. And what I mean by that is you have to, what I mean by that is Nets can't come out in the second half sluggish in any of the games. You want to win games? Nets have done a bad job this year. They get a 10-point lead, they come out at halftime, and your opponent will go on an 8-0 run. They get a 20-point lead, boom, just like that, it's a 10-0 run, it's a 10-point game. It's a 20-point lead going to the fourth quarter, Nets win by 6. That can't happen. You got to start game strong, you got to come out of the half strong, you got to finish game strong. Something the Nets haven't done great this season. If you can do that, the Nets can win. Nets can beat just about anybody if they can do that. Because the Nets this season, they got off to a very good start against the Cavs. The Nets put up a 40 spot against the Cavs. Second quarter, they had 17 points. Cavs then outscored the Nets in every quarter in the second half. 30-28, 35-30. Which is why the game was a whole lot more interesting than what it started out. Nets were winning against the Cavs by 20 to start going into the second quarter. Nets only won by 7. So Nets have to. You start game strong, come out of the half, that's my biggest worry. You can't go into halftime with a 10-point lead, come out of the half, and make that lead dwindles to 2 in a minute. You can't do that. Nets got to play 3 strong. There's time. There's times in the game where the Nets need to. There's 3 times in the game where the Nets need to play strong. You need to start the game strong because you can't get behind, especially on the road. It's tough. Any team. I don't care what team you are. Anytime you get behind in the road, it's not easy to come back. Especially if it's a double-digit lead. If it's like a 15-point game behind, crowds get into it. Tough communicating. You're turning the ball over. Fast break, energy. That's not gonna. That's not the recipe for success. So you need to start the game strong. Come out at halftime, you need to be strong. And obviously to close out the games, you need to be strong. Can't turn the ball over late. They foul you, make your free throws. Open looks, take them. So I think a lot relies on 2 3-point shots from the Nets. Because I think the Celtics are going to score. Nets defense isn't great. Celtics are going to score. Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Even if you guard them, they're going to still score. But they can't score a ton. You hope that they don't score a ton, but they're going to score either way. Seth Curry, Patty Mills needs to find his rhythm. He needs to. And Seth Curry, he's big. Catch and shoot, open looks. They're going to be doubling KD. So that makes extra stress on guys like Seth Curry and your other guys to get open looks and make those, threes and get those shots up and making Bruce Brown being in the paint. Taking the pressure off of KD, getting, passing to Bruce Brown while I was driving, getting to the basket, finishing. That's all big. So, and I guess my third key is it really isn't a key for the whole series. This is really just for the first 2 games. Nets need to come out of Boston with at least a split. You come out of Boston down 2-0, sure, those games in Brooklyn matter even more, but you're down 2-0, it's very hard to come back. And I know that we witnessed the comeback last year, Nets versus Bucks. Nets started the series 2-0, but that was with all injuries, Kyrie goes down, Harden goes down, all that stuff kind of happened. Harden then came back, but he wasn't 100%, it was clear. All that stuff kind of happened, that all those issues took place. So that was a big thing. Celtics, if you go down 2-0 and as long as your opponent stays healthy, you're going to probably win that series. So the Nets need to at least split in Boston. If we come out of Boston up 2-0, then to go home, that is great. But at least we need to come out of Boston with the split. You need to at least. Come out of Boston 2-0, that'd be great. Then you go home. You have opportunity to sweep at home. That'd be amazing. But at least come out of Boston with series tied 1-1. That's very important. So, and like I said, look, if the Nets play clean basketball, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving do their thing, I mean, that's the Nets. That's the advantage the Nets have over any team in the league. They have two of the best basketball players in the world, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. So, if they get into their zone, they do their things, not many teams can stop them. So that in itself is an advantage the Nets obviously have, and the Nets need to take advantage of that advantage and play their game. So, like I said, Game 1 Sunday in Boston, 3:30 Eastern, ABC. Boston comes into it 4-point favorites. Matchup predictor says, according to ESPN's Basketball Power Index, 82.8% of people think the Celtics have an 82.8% chance of winning. So, pretty wild. So we'll say that. Say the least there. There's a lot. Looks like the Celtics people they believe they're gonna win. Got to roll with the Nets, I guess. Game 1. If we can win Game 1, that would be huge. And I know with Ben Simmons coming back, and let's say that is true. Let's say Ben Simmons does come back, and you're up, I don't know, 3-0 in the series or 2-1 in the series, and Ben Simmons comes back. That's a huge lift. So, Nets just play clean game, do your thing, go out there, make shots, play hard, finish games, come out of halftime, start strong, finish strong. All those things Nets need to do, and if they can do that, they can win, and that's the reality of it. So, hoping for a Nets series victory, and we'll see how it all plays out starting Sunday at 3:30 Eastern on ABC. All right, so let's get to the rest of the play-in games today. So glad that the Nets don't play today. We got the Hawks, Cavs. I'm going to take the Cavs. Hawks come into this 2-point favorites, but I'm going to take the Cavs. And we got Pelicans, Clippers. I'm going to take the Pelicans. Pelicans was a pleasant surprise to see them beat the Spurs. I'm going to take the Pelicans in this one. So we'll see who moves on today. Those are the final two games of the play-in. As for hockey, today there's only two games on: Islanders and Canadiens, and Jets, Panthers. And as for baseball, got a lot going on today. You got the Red Sox, Twins, Pirates, Nationals, Marlins, Phillies, Blue Jays, A's, Guardians, Giants, White Sox, Rays, Angels, Rangers, Cardinals, Brewers, Royals, Tigers, Rockies, Cubs, Padres, Braves, Mariners, Astros, and Dodgers, Reds. Mets today at 1:10 Eastern. Mets home opener. Mets come into the game 5-2. Diamondbacks come into the game 2-4. Zach Davies on the mound for the Diamondbacks, and Chris Bassett making his second start of the season for the Mets. Over/under set at 7.5. By the way, the lineup for the Mets is out. So it's McNeil leading off, playing left. Starling Marte's in right, batting second. Batting third, playing shortstop, is Francisco Lindor. Batting fourth, playing first, is Pete Alonso. Batting fifth is Eduardo Escobar. Batting, looks like Escobar's third base. Let's see. It looks like Eduardo Escobar is going to be third base then. Eduardo Escobar's third base. Batting sixth, Robinson Cano playing second. Batting seventh, DHing is J.D. Davis. Batting eighth, playing center is Travis Jankowski. And batting ninth, rounding out the order, and catching will be James Buchanan. Like I said, Chris Bassett's on the mound. So Nimmo doesn't play, which I know a lot of Met fans wanted Nimmo to play, but they're rolling with an outfield of McNeil, Marte, and then Jankowski So that's their lineup that they're rolling with. Alrighty, so alright, so that's with that. And then the Yankees also tonight. Yankees coming to this one fresh off a 3-0 victory last night. Yankees are 4-3 on the season. Orioles coming to this one a brutal, league worst 1-5 on the season. Jordan Montgomery takes the mound today for the Yankees, and Lyles is on the mound for the Orioles. Jordan Lyles, over/under set at 9. This game's on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern. You can find it on Yes and Mason. I feel pretty confident about tonight's game with the Yankees. And look, like I said, weekend series today, tomorrow, and into Sunday. I believe the Yankees have a day off on Monday as well. You take care of business today, it should be a series sweep. And that's the hope, and that's the expectation. As for fantasy baseball, in my main league, I'm winning 317 to 280. Got some injury updates. So, Jonathan India's day-to-day. Manager David Bell said India hamstring isn't expected to play Friday against the Dodgers, but could come back. Could be back in the lineup as early as Saturday. Trent Rosecrans of The Athletic reports. So that's the update on him. Gene Segura still day-to-day. Segura hand sat yesterday, so we'll see if he plays today. And as for pitching, I got Carlos Rodon, Chris Bassett, and Tariq Skubal on the mound. Realmuto, Walsh, Segura, Bregman, Adames, Correa, Gurriel, Harper, Judge, Gurriel Jr., Blackman, Andrew Vaughn, and Garcia are my starting lineup right now. I might make some changes as needed. And as for my other league, I'm currently winning 351 to 310. Not many injury updates in that league other than I put Teoscar Hernandez on the IL. He got placed on the 10-day IL with the left oblique strain. I picked up Stephen Kwan, who's been dominant, has been taking the league by storm. So I picked him up, give him a chance, and we'll see what he can do. And I have one pitcher on the mound today, and that is Carlos Rodon today. So my lineup today will be Realmuto, Walsh, Merrifield, Bregman, Bichette, LeMahieu, Gurriel, Soto, Springer, Blackman, O'Neill, Garcia, and Bobby Witt Jr. rounding out the order. So we'll see how all that plays out. And, that will do it for the podcast today. Hoping for both. Come Monday, we'll find out how I did in fantasy. And hoping for a good weekend ahead. So, everybody, enjoy your weekend. As always, I take breaks on the weekends. So, I'll be back here on Monday. You all know the drill. Sunday, I'll have my Bubs Talking Baseball podcast on Apple Podcast. So if you want to check that out, feel free to if you want to. That will be on Sunday. And as for this podcast, I will see you all. This will be back up on Monday. And enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the holiday. For those who celebrate Easter, enjoy it. Enjoy all the sports. Enjoy baseball. For the Met fans out there, enjoy the game today with the home opener. Should be a big crowd. Yankees. Enjoy the series there, and to the fellow Net fans, let's get a win on Sunday. So that will do it. Packed weekend ahead, packed sports weekend ahead. Enjoy it all. I will see you all back here on the flip side. See you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.